You're listening to You Reign by Mason Clover. You can find out more at masonclover.com. The youth of this generation are no different than any other generation in that they are our future. But as the world progresses, so much of our youth progress. No one can argue that the worldly youth of this generation has gone off the deep end in any number of ways. Much of our local, national, and world newscasts focus on young people rising up to take control, and usually it is a control that is usurped or manipulated in a way that leads others away from the one true God. Youth camps have always been a vital source of direction for the youth of the past, and as the world gets farther away from God, the more we need to invest in the direction of the youth camps of the future. Messianic youth camps are a responsibility we, as leaders within the individual and corporate communities, should not take lightly. Camp Yeshua has, for 10 years now, been a groundbreaking influence on many of the lives of our youth. I have with me Ephriam Judah, a good friend of mine for over 7 years now, and the director of Camp Yeshua, a unique name for a camp within itself. Ephriam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Mark. I'm happy to be here, and definitely happy to share about Camp Yeshua and what we do year in and year out with the Messianic youth out there, and I'm definitely excited to talk about it.
Well, we're great. We feel great to have you here on the magazine. First of all, your name, Ephriam Judah, is quite unique. Is that a conversation starter for you?
Yeah, it definitely can be when I go to either Messianic conferences or just around. My dad, Monty Judah, he named me Ephriam Judah, and there's a lot of Messianic things, prophecies associated with the name, and I have had the opportunity to when I've had a couple of Mormons come to my door, and they come to speak with me about the Lord, and I talk to them for a little bit, and then when they get ready to leave and they ask me what my name is, I say, "Oh, my name's Ephriam Judah," and I usually get a double take, kind of some bulging eyes, and they kind of swallow their words at the time. They're just
Sure.
they seem impressed by that, but yes, it definitely can be a conversation piece, and there's 100 different pronunciations for Ephraim, but I'll respond to all of them. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
I'll never forget. Actually, very early on, I had known your mom and dad for some time, and before we moved to Oklahoma, I was talking to your mom on the phone, and I called you Ephraim, and she
hmm
corrected me very quickly. I'll never
well, actually,
forget it.
I've always liked the name Ephraim.
Uh-huh.
Some people go by Ephraim.
Right.
They say it kind of quickly like that. I've lived here in America my whole life, and just kind of I live here in the heartland in Oklahoma, and Ephraim just seems to be the simplest, easiest one to say,
Sure.
and so I just kind of go by the American pronunciation of it.
Sure. And you're basically one of the few that has lived most of his life as Messianic, in the Messianic lifestyle, aren't you?
That is correct. My dad's been teaching Torah for just as long as I've been alive. I'm 25 years old right now, and my dad's been teaching Torah for 24 years. Um, last time I celebrated Christmas was 1988 when I was 3 years old, and so I definitely have been brought up in the lifestyle of being Messianic, and I don't know much different than being Messianic. And at times it causes me to struggle to relate with some that are newly Messianic. They just became Messianic. They just stopped doing Christmas last year, and at times I have a little bit of trouble relating to people like that. But I believe that my lifestyle and how I've lived my life, that I definitely I can be a leader in this movement because of my experience with being Messianic for so many years and learning so many things over time, over the long haul, that it allows me to have definitely a unique perspective on a lot of different things, Messianic lifestyle, choices, decisions, everything like that. And so, yes, I do feel very blessed to have been brought up in as Messianic for the lion's share of my life.
Right, very good. Well, it's the same. Of course, you know my daughter Sarah, who is 19, and
Yep.
we are well within 15 years of being messianic ourselves. So that's pretty much all she knows. She does remember a few things also
Yeah.
there, but this also, as I'm thinking about it, affords you even more of a unique ability to be the director of a youth camp, a Messianic
Yeah.
youth camp.
Yeah.
Though you have a great staff, I know a lot of the people that are on your staff, and they have lived a Christian lifestyle or a
Mhm.
different belief system lifestyle before being Messianic. You do have a great staff there. So let's start off. Give us a history of Camp Yeshua. It's been around for quite some time, and then we'll get into more of what you're doing today and your staff and that type of thing.
Sure, sure. Camp Yeshua is a Messianic youth summer camp that we've been doing for 10 years now. This year, 2011, we're at the moment we're talking right now. We're 1 week away from doing our next camp, and it will be our 10th year, our 10th Camp Yeshua ever. It started way back in 2002. And really, kind of the birth of Camp Yeshua started with Sukkot, with tabernacles. The tabernacle celebration that we do here at Lion and Lamb Ministries out in Chandler, Oklahoma. We've been doing that for, I guess it's been about now 15 years or so doing that. And we had a youth program there. And our youth director, a man by the name of Brent Avery, who basically led our youth, taught the youth there. In 2001, at Tabernacles 2001, we had a great youth program. We had, I think, probably about 70 kids in the youth, and we all loved spending time with each other, just had a great time. And Brent, who's been a youth leader at his Christian church and for his for I think probably about 20 years of his life at that time, he had done youth camps before, and he kind of brought the suggestion up to the leaders at Lion and Lamb Ministries and made the suggestion to have a Messianic youth camp, a summer youth camp. So we thought it was a great idea. The youth were all excited to see each other, more than once a year. We'd see each other at Tabernacles, but we all live in different states and not able to see each other very often, and so the idea to be able to see each other at a youth camp as well sounded like a great plan. So, one thing led to another, and we started looking for a campground where we could have a Messianic youth summer camp. And we found one. We found a great campground down in the area of Lawton, Oklahoma, and down there in the there's some mountains down there and just real nice nice landscapes out there down in southwestern Oklahoma. And we found a youth camp. And funny thing was, this youth camp we found, the name of the campground was called Camp Yeshua. And somebody had set up yes, really. Somebody had set up a camp that can be rented out to other groups, and he called it Camp Yeshua. And the reason it was called Camp Yeshua, he said there was two reasons. One, because Yeshua is the Hebrew name for Jesus, and he was well aware of that. But also, apparently, Yeshua is also a Native American word. I don't know what tribe, but it's a Native American word for place of gathering.
Really?
So those two
How
reasons why he named this campground Camp Yeshua. So we went down there, and it was just kind of like a light bulb went on our head. It's like, well, let's call it Camp Yeshua. That's what we're.
Sure.
That sounds like a plan. So that's where the name came from. So this campground down in Camp Yeshua, down in Lawton, Oklahoma, was it's a nice campground. We had. There were dorms, meeting areas, a kitchen, and down there the very first year at Camp Yeshua, there in 2002. We had 70 people come down, and that included some staff and the campers, and we went down there and we had a youth camp. It was led by Brent Avery, and I was a camper at the time. If I think about it, I was I think 17 years old. And I just remember Camp Yeshua was just one of the most awesome times I could remember. Everybody that was a part of it just loved it to death. It was just incredible. And Brent had created a schedule it was a very tight schedule, and we were doing something every 15 minutes, and we were all wore out. The Oklahoma heat was definitely getting to us, but it was an absolute blast, and I remember that Camp Yeshua very fondly, and that was the first year. It holds a special place in my heart. And I remember thinking, this is kind of interesting. I remember thinking when we got out there, and the schedule was all back and forth, and I saw Brent there. We were trying to figure out, because we were all Messianic, we weren't Christian. We were trying to figure out our niche. What is a Messianic youth camp? What's the different thing about us than a Christian camp? And I got really excited, and as the camp was going on, I kept thinking about, I could really see myself really getting excited about this, and I really wanted to be a real integral part of helping out with it and doing that sort of thing. And I even had the opportunity to design the logo that year, and because I've been doing graphic design also here for the last about 10 years or so. And so I really felt like I really wanted to be a part of it, an integral part of Camp Yeshua. And so that year it was just absolutely wonderful, and certain things didn't work out. We tried to have a campfire at night, but the Oklahoma heat sure didn't. None of us really wanted to be there around a campfire. But the thing we did discover that we do like to do is we like to dance, and doing Davidic dance.
Right.
And one of the things that we basically invented out there at that first Camp Yeshua was Starlight Davidic dance. And every night there at Camp Yeshua, we dance. We dance under the stars. We play music. We set up a little PA system and play some Paul Wilbur and Jonathan Sattel and other Messianic songs, and we dance. And ever since that year, that is how we end every single day of Camp Yeshua. Since then, as we end with Starlight Davidic dance. And so, as Messianics, we kind of found our niche there on what we kind of do, some of the things we do there at a youth camp.
Sure.
That first year was great with 70 individuals we brought out. The second year, 2003, we did it at the same place, and we grew. I'm not exactly sure how much we grew by. I want to say it was probably around 100 or so people that next year. Mm-hmm. And it continued to grow, and in fact, we outgrew that campground down in Lawton. It was we were just too many people. The location was pretty small. They didn't have enough beds on the campground for us to continue to grow. So there in 2004, we looked for another campground to relocate to, and we found another one, and we were in McAllister, Oklahoma, at a camp called Camp Hudgens.
Well, that's a long ways away from Norman.
That it is. It's about a 2.5-hour drive.
Yeah.
What we would do is all the kids would meet in Norman at the Lion and Lamb office, and we would rent a bus, and we'd all load up on the bus, and we'd all go down there. So that's how we kind of shuttled all the kids down there. And in 2004, Brent Avery was still leading the camp, and we had another great year there. And the scenery down at Camp Hudgens was actually really nice. The campground was a little more spread out, but it could handle our numbers better. And 2004 was just another great year, continued to grow. We also 2004 was the first time we ever had sort of a junior staff program. As some of the campers that had come to Camp Yeshua for the first time, the first couple of years, we started getting older, and myself included, and we were now over the age of 18, and the youth camp was ages 14 through 18, and so we got a little too old, but we still wanted to come back to Camp Yeshua. So we expanded Camp Yeshua to include a junior staff program that allowed all of us older ones to continue to keep coming.
You're just making it so that no matter what age you are, you can go to summer youth camp. That's all you're doing.
You found me out. I've been discovered. That's exactly the case, is that Camp Yeshua really does provide something for anybody of any age, with the exception of of like a younger kids, but
it does.
It's really that at college that junior staff programs allowed kids of my age and of my generation the chance to really gain some leadership experience and to really be a good influence on those younger than us.
That's
and
right.
So it really was a great idea. The only difference was in 2004, we kind of were separated from the rest of the camp. The youth were kind of doing their thing. The junior staff program was kind of doing their own thing. They were actually, we called it the college and career group, and we kind of did our own thing. It felt like there was two camps going on. And there at the end of that year, we had a few disagreements with Brent Avery. Nothing too major, but he kind of saw a new vision for Camp Yeshua than kind of the direction we were going. We saw we were growing, and we wanted to really, set down some roots in Oklahoma. And he kind of had an idea of more broad, something to do with, kind of combining a tour to Israel with Camp Yeshua. And
okay.
we knew that a lot of kids weren't going to be able to afford that.
Sure.
And so he kind of had a different sort of vision for Camp Yeshua. And as a result, Brent Avery did step down as the camp director of Camp Yeshua. So we here at Lion and Lamb Ministries, we knew we had a good thing going and needed to keep it going. So we went out and we got Bill Cloud, who I'm sure a lot of the listeners are aware of.
Sure.
and have heard of. And he used to do youth a long time ago. And ever since Brent had stepped down, Bill Cloud came in and assisted with our youth programs, not only at Camp Yeshua, but also at our Feast of Tabernacles event. And so in 2005, Bill Cloud came in, and we did another camp down there at Camp Hudgens in McAllister. And Camp Yeshua just exploded at that time. We had jumped, I think the 2004 may have had maybe 130 or so, and 2005 just expanded and exploded to 180 people. And so we immediately, had to increase the number of our groups that we do. We assign all the kids to groups, and we call them T groups, which other Christian camps will call them D groups, standing for discipleship groups. But us who are Messianic, we called them T groups, which meant Talmudim, which is discipleship in Hebrew.
Right.
And we had to expand up to 12 T groups there in 2005. And Bill Cloud had the absolute wonderful idea of calling all of our groups by the tribes of Israel, and because we had 12 of them now. And so we now had groups that we called tribes, and we had 12 of them, and we named them after the 12 tribes of Israel. And we organized the camp really well in the way that the children of Israel camped in the wilderness during the Exodus. And Bill Cloud really did bring some great ideas to the table. We had a banner design where each tribe would create a banner for their tribe. He also brought in ideas like theme nights at Camp Yeshua, where when we have our evening programs there, he had the idea of let's make a theme every single night, and the kids they dress up for whatever theme it might be, whether it was Western night or if it was Goofy night, or everybody dressed all goofy, or they dressed in Western attire or anything like that. And so a lot of great ideas kind of came to the table with bringing Bill Cloud into the fold. And there in 2005, we got big, and we knew we were going to kind of keep getting bigger, and there with 180 people. And so we were again on the quest of finding another campground, because that one down there in McAllister, we were starting to outgrow again.
Right.
And the Lord was just blessing this youth camp that was continuing going on. In 2006 was the first year that we went down to Anadarko, Oklahoma, at a camp called Oak Ridge Christian Camp, and that is the place where we found there in 2006. And ever since then, we've been there at Oak Ridge Christian Camp because of their ability to expand and how many actual people they can actually accept at their campground. And we've had a great relationship with them over the years. From 2006 here all the way through 2011 and beyond, we've been with them. And there in 2006, we had another great year. Bill Cloud led as well, and I was fully entrenched in the junior staff program at the time, and I was also integral part in coming up with the themes, logo design, T-shirts. We started providing water bottles to all the kids because as the sun seems to keep getting hotter these days, We still got a youth camp going on, and these kids, they struggle with some hydration issues, so we give them water bottles. We give them wristbands to assign them to whatever tribe they're in, and so we really do provide these kids with a lot of things. They get a T-shirt, a water bottle, a wristband. We send them home with a CD with all the pictures every single year, and so it's constantly grown with our ability to provide for these kids as they keep coming, and the Lord's been able to provide, and we've been able to accept them. In 2007. That was Bill Cloud's last year as the camp director, and he was doing he really was doing a great job. I appreciate everything that Bill Cloud did, but again, Camp Yeshua was kind of going in kind of a little bit of a different direction. And one of the other things that was kind of lacking there in 2007 was a great worship program. One of the things that really the kids really respond to is great praise and worship, and they'll dance. And if you've seen any pictures, the kids, they dance and they just love to praise the Lord with praise and worship. And it was a very important aspect of Camp Yeshua. And there in 2000, I should say this, in 2006 we had Jimmy Black. Right. And he was just a fabulous worship leader. If anybody's heard Jimmy Black, they know that to be true. And we had great worship in 2006. In 2007, we did not have Jimmy Black, and it was kind of like a more put together, kind of from various campers and trying to provide praise and worship. And it just wasn't the greatest experience there in 2007. In 2008. After Bill, we pretty much knew Bill Cloud had kind of done his last year, and then it kind of we were a little bit in limbo for a little bit, in the sense of should Camp Yeshua keep going on if we can't find a camp director? Well, I was up to the task. I was only I'm only 23 years old at the time. But I was up to the task. I'd been a part of Camp Yeshua from the very beginning. I saw the vision. I was really in love with the whole idea. And there in 2008, that's when I took over as the camp director, and we had another wonderful year in 2008. The Lord really challenged us spiritually, physically, emotionally, and really 2008 was definitely a turning point for Camp Yeshua. When I took over on the last night, my good friend and brother Rico Cortez, who's been a part of Camp Yeshua now for several years as well, I was anointed there in 2008 kind of as the new leader of Camp Yeshua, and definitely was a turning point. And 2008 was our largest year at the time. There 190 total people was there in 2008. Since then, in 2009, we continued to grow. In 2009, we had 213 people come, wow. And last year we had 226 last year in 2010.
Wow.
Total people that's come in, and probably a good chunk of them, probably 180, are young Messianic believers that are newly Messianic. They're youth between the ages of 13 and 18. Junior staff, up to about the age of 23, and so many of them are young Messianic believers. And last year we also had 32 states represented. That they come 32, from all over the place.
Wow!
Also, 2 provinces in Canada, and one other kid that came from Costa Rica. Came to be a part of Camp Yeshua, and so Camp Yeshua really has a reputation that's grown. We've gotten bigger every single year, and parents will put their kids on an airplane and send them to Hole-in-the-Wall, Oklahoma, to be a part of our youth camp. And I shake my head every day, really thinking about that parents actually do this. But Camp Yeshua now has such a reputation and a testimony of being one of the premier Messianic events of the year, and perhaps the best one for youth. And since then, other Messianic youth camps have popped up. A few, they actually came to our camp first. They saw how great it was, and they wanted to put something together locally in their area. Right. One example of that is Messiah West Coast out in California, right. Also Camp Zimrat Yah, who up in Canada. Uh-huh. And I'm fully in support of those guys, to be able to get the message of Camp Yeshua, the ministering to the youth of the Messianic movement is something that I feel is very important. and I don't take necessarily any credit for blazing a trail for these Messianic youth camps, but I'm definitely in line with the vision and the idea of it, and so it's definitely been a wonderful ride, and I hope to be doing it for as long as I possibly can. And we got another one great coming up here in a week. Right now, registered, we got 242 coming this year.
242. Oh,
242 coming
wow.
here in 2011, and I'm sorry to say, anybody that's listening to this, the registration's it's going to be closed, or the camp might have already gone on by the time anybody's listening to this.
Sure.
But I would definitely encourage anybody that wants to be a part of this youth camp to look us up next year. Plan on coming. The registration cost is right around $300, and the kids, when you come, you get lodging for 5 nights, 15 meals. We give you a T-shirt, a water bottle, a wristband, a photo CD, and we provide fun and activity for a full week. And at that cost, I'd challenge anybody to go find a hotel for a week and be
That's
fed
right.
every single day.
That's right.
For around that cost too. But here at Camp Yeshua, we afford them the ability to meet so many new friends, people that they'll meet and they didn't know existed. A lot of people out in the Messianic movement, they think that they're all alone. They become Messianic, and there's small home fellowships around. But one of the things that Camp Yeshua really provides is these kids show up and they see that there's so many other kids just like them that believe like they do around their age. And, some kid might not have a youth group back home where he lives and might not have any friends around his age that believe like he does. But when you come to Camp Yeshua, you will meet another 150 youth just like you in the exact same position.
Right.
And Camp Yeshua has provided lifelong friendships. I mean, there's people I met at that first Camp Yeshua that I'm still friends with to this day. And it's also just been a great opportunity for all these kids to meet people. And in fact, lifelong relationships have formed. There's been some campers that met their future spouses at Camp Yeshua. And it's like we obviously don't emphasize that Camp Yeshua is any kind of Messianic eHarmony, but it really does. It
Sure.
really does provide these young men and women an opportunity to meet others that believe like they do.
That's right.
And lifelong bonds, lifelong friendships are formed. And these kids talk about Camp Yeshua out on internet land, on Facebook, year round, and they describe it as it's the best week of their life. And it's a blessing to me that I'm able to provide that environment for so many youth, and I think it's necessary for so many of these kids to have other friends and relationships and to meet the new people and to really realize they're not alone in their faith.
Yeah, just tremendous, Ephriam. This is there are so many things here. One of the last things you were talking about, though, is the young boys and girls being able to meet. Explain, though. The security that you have in keeping the boys and the girls apart, yet there's interaction and that type of thing. Obviously we know in summer camps has a reputation.
Sure, they do.
Absolutely. So address that for me if you would.
Yeah, let me expand on that. When it comes to the dorm lodging and everything like that. The guys are in a separate dorm building on one side of the camp. The girls are in another dorm lodging building on the other side of the camp. We do not. In fact, at Camp Yeshua, we have a specific workshop lesson that we do. That one is individually for boys, another one is individually for girls, and we try to really prepare these kids and explain that. The security and safety and the need for boundaries between the relationships of boys and girls. We don't allow anything like PDA and things like that. When we assign our tribes, I will say this, that the tribes are co-ed that with boys and girls, but we do our absolute level best to separate friends, people that know each other. We really encourage them, and we put them apart as part of a tribe where they will meet new people. They won't be with their friends. We get them out of their comfort zone, and we so that it allows the greatest amount of spiritual learning and understanding, and these kids really kind of branch out and speak up when they normally wouldn't if with their friends around.
Right.
They really speak up, and they really grow grow up overnight there at our camp. If we're aware of anybody, a boy or a girl who might have a relationship, boyfriend or a girlfriend, anything like that, we will specifically and we'll separate them and make sure we keep our eye on them all during the week. And we also we do not allow any use of cell phones during the week of Camp Yeshua. We don't want them calling their girlfriend back home or texting their boyfriend or anything like that.
That.
We really try to get them to concentrate individually on themselves and on God for that week, and that is it really is a great learning experience. And friends, keep everything on the friendship level, but and the real intimate relationship is between you and the Lord. And so that's really what a lot of our emphasis is. And so if there's any parents who are concerned about the interaction between boys and girls, we definitely have our eyes and ears open and make sure that we keep our eye on that and ensure that anything like that, any sort of inappropriate interaction does not take place. And we really try to keep that secure, and because we really have a really specific vision for Camp Yeshua, and we don't want any of that to be tainted by any inappropriate relationships,
Sure,
I should say.
Sure. Well, I'm sure that there have been those that are already have a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship before they've gone to Camp Yeshua, and they have in mind that, oh boy, we get to spend a week together,
Right.
at camp, and then of course when they get there they find out that that's not necessarily so.
That is not the case. Our schedule is completely full. There's very little free time whatsoever for just one-on-one individual interaction. We have a lot of activities going on, and we have a lot of staff. The Lord always provides us lots of staff to keep their eye on all the kids, and a lot of the staff come from parents, just like parents of youth, and they bring their youth to camp, and some of them like to keep their eye on their kid as they bring them to camp, and then they're sticking around and keeping their eye on their own kid. But we have a lot of staff that come and are very willing to minister to the rest of the youth, and to help be a parent and a leader in the lives of many other youth. There's lots of people to meet, and so you can meet not only new friends and new peers, but you can meet other Messianic leaders and really develop a relationship with other parents and have more influences in your life when you come to Camp Yeshua.
Well, don't the junior staff actually bunk with the campers? A lot of the staff.
That is correct. Everybody bunks together. The staff, the junior staff, and the kids. There's always a leader around keeping their eye on the kids basically at all times. The junior staff really have a great job for them. They have the opportunity to really do everything the campers do. Yet they pay the registration cost of a staff member, and they get to take advantage of the opportunity to have some leadership experience, to talk with the kids, counsel with the kids. They really are junior counselors that are able to gain some invaluable leadership experience with other youth, they can take advantage of those opportunities to either teach a discussion topic there with each tribe, but the main thing that they do is they provide a wonderful example for the youth. They blend in with the youth. They look like the youth, but they're older and they're smarter, and I tell them that they are the examples for all the other youth to follow, and so when they follow the rules and they really do a lot of the encouragement and they play fair and all the different things that we do, when the youth actually see them doing it, they then respond, and they lead by example. Is what the junior staff really do, and it's definitely a wonderful dynamic. There ever since we started that, and when they were originally separate from the camp, we've integrated them into the camp completely every other year since. And that really provides a wonderful interaction dynamic between more new people to meet, as well as having a great group of young men and women that lead by example, and the kids can really look up to and can really meet a new older brother or a new older sister while they're at Camp Yeshua.
Well, it's great to have parents and the older people there. It's good, and you have to have that. But I would probably even assume that probably most of your staff are in their early 20s, maybe even a little closer to the kids' age, so that they can relate a little bit more if they have problems or things that they're going through. They can relate with those. That age more.
Yes, and that is really where the junior staff come in. Some of the staff are older parents in their 30s and 40s, but the ones that the kids
50s, 60s, come
and
on,
50s and 60s, we got a couple of grandparents that got a lot of. I will say this: some of those grandparents have a lot of spunk in them, and they keep up with the youth as well as anybody, and so. I don't put a knock on anybody at any age. You're only as old as you feel, and they come and they be a great part of camp. But for the ones for the kids really to look up to, that younger that generation just ahead of theirs is really the one really for them to look up to, and that really has been the greatest advantage for me being the director. And being as young an age as I am, is that I understand what the kids really like to do. I've been to every Camp Yeshua. I know what works, what doesn't work, what gets the kids excited, what isn't as fun. And so my ability to organize the schedule and the activities and everything that we do, and the teachings and how the themes for each year work. I understand where the kids, what interests them, what really floats their boat, what gets them excited, and so it's a unique advantage that I have leading Camp Yeshua that I really can relate to them because everybody was a youth once, but I was a youth only less than 10 years ago, and so it's fresh in my mind what really gets them excited about Camp Yeshua, and so it's a unique advantage that I have that I can provide and bring to Camp Yeshua to get the kids really excited, and I absolutely love it being able to relate to these kids. I really feel for them, whatever they're going through and that sort of thing. That's my heart, my passion, because it's exactly what I go through day in and day out, and what I've been going through for the past 25 years of my life, and that's it allows me to really be, the Lord's been a wonderful blessing to me, and the Lord has blessed me tremendously, and by me doing this with Camp Yeshua, it allows me to pass those blessings on to someone else, that the Lord's blessed me so much that I can now bless and minister someone else.
The teaching, you were talking about the teaching earlier. It's my understanding that, of course, my daughter goes to Camp Yeshua, so I do know a little bit there, that every year you do take the boys aside and teach them specific things, and the girls aside and teach them specific things.
Yes. I mentioned the breakout little meeting that we do. We do it once a week, and we do it early on in the week. And really we try to set the tone for the rest of the week for the proper relationships between boys and girls. And really, it's always changing, whatever that discussion might be. My wife, Lauren, she teaches the girls' class, and she always has a wonderful theme and a word picture to teach the girls about things like modesty and things like keeping yourself pure and things like that. And my wife Lauren does a great job with the girls, and the girls say year in and year out how wonderful it is to have that discussion. With the guys, we do the same. We teach them the proper things. We teach them things like chivalry, like just proper manners and things like that. And we just try to. We can't teach them anything that is going to profoundly change their life. The parents, it's their responsibility to teach their kids and to place the rules and the boundaries on the kids. All we can really do is reinforce the Torah observant lifestyle that should already be provided to them by their parents. One of the things about Camp Yeshua is nobody's going to be able to send a kid to Camp Yeshua who's kind of a problem child and then expect them to be reformed at our camp. All we can do is reinforce the Torah principles and the principles we learn from Yeshua the Messiah. We can reinforce that, and we can encourage that. And so we try to give lessons individually to the boys and to the girls that are generic enough that they can minister to anybody. We do have a broad age range between 14 and 18, and in fact, we often have 13-year-olds at Camp Yeshua that we make a special exception for. And so that there's a big difference between a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old in where they are in their life and in their relationships and the relationships with other people, with members of the opposite sex, and with God. And so we try to give a lesson and a teaching that can minister to everyone, that is not over the head of the 13-year-old or too juvenile for the 18-year-old. And
right.
So we can't. We don't say a lot, and we don't emphasize any doctrines or any real hardline things like you can't do this, you are allowed to do this. We try to really respect the parents' authority to teach their kids about some of the more weightier matters of their lifestyle. And so we don't push our weight, throw our weight around or anything like that. But we do try to encourage them. We try to encourage them, and I usually teach the guys class, and I speak what's on my heart at the time to the guys, what I've kind of observed over the year, and what do these kids need? What do these guys need to learn? What do they need to be told right now to keep on the path? It's not that they've fallen off the cart. It's like they're on the cart and it's a bumpy ride, and what can we do to smooth it out for them? That's all we try to that's really all we try to teach and encourage in those particular classes. As far as the other teaching throughout the week, we bring in guest speakers. Like I said, Rico Cortez has been a part of Camp Yeshua now. I think we're looking at. It's been 6 years now that Rico's been coming, and he teaches some of his teachings to the youth. My dad, Monty Judah, he's taught the youth before, and one of the things I've been really excited about is that this last year and this year as well, we've gotten my good friend Brent Avery, who started Camp Yeshua. He has come back and been one of our guest speakers, and
love it.
And so we were never at odds with each other. We just had a different vision and things like that. And so it's been really encouraging to have him come back and be a part of Camp Yeshua. And he's seen what I've done with it. And, he's blown away with as big as it's gotten, and that, I claim that I learned everything from him, and he's told me he certainly doesn't want to have my job ever again because he sees how much work I really put into it. But however, he's always been a great teacher, and he is messianic and has been and has some great content with his teachings, and he knows how to relate to youth, and so it's been a real blessing last year, and also we'll have him again this year to come and teach a couple of messages to the kids, and just a dynamic teacher. And in the past, Bill Cloud's taught before. We've also had a brother Mike Clayton come and teach before, and so we've always brought in guest speakers to give great lessons and content to these youth. And one of the things also is these youth, they're pretty smart too. And so really these teachers come in and they can teach them about, very advanced topics, advanced things about our faith as far as prophecy and deeper meanings of the Hebrew language and things like that. And these kids are smart and they just soak it up. And all the speakers, they come and they treat them like adults because in some instances they're very intelligent. You can't fool these kids,
Sure.
with gimmicks and things like that. And so we provide them some good quality Messianic teaching there at Camp Yeshua. And similarly to the teaching is the praise and worship that is just vitally important to Camp Yeshua. And the last couple of years, the last 3 years, we've had our brother Mason Clover come and lead our praise and worship. And I know he's done some things with your audio magazine, and
Right.
he's been a wonderful blessing to Camp Yeshua. That he's what I was always looking for and envisioning for Camp Yeshua as far as a praise and worship leader. That he's got a real youthful sound, and it's got kind of a more modern, a little bit more alternative. But that's what the kids, that's what they really like to listen to, and it's not just the same old praise and worship that they hear every week. It's really something really kind of powerful and dynamic. And Mason's been just a fantastic addition to Camp Yeshua as our praise and worship leader. And he brings the kids in. We kind of put together a band there while we're out at Camp Yeshua, and just some amazing intimate worship has taken place out there at Camp Yeshua. And thanks especially to Mason on that.
Yeah, Mason's just a great guy, and of course now with 2 children of his own, I'm sure he works out great with camp. Thank you for listening to part 1 of Camp Yeshua Messianic Youth Camp. Use the player below to listen to the rest of this great interview with Ephriam Judah, the director of Camp Yeshua.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
The teachings and music on Messianic Lamb Radio are made available by the generous donations of listeners like you. Thank you.